The massive alien ship appeared in Earth's sky like a dark cloud that covered half the moon. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of humanity's only spaceworthy vessel, the Dauntless, and watched the enemy fleet through the viewport. 200 ships hung in space near Jupiter, each one bigger than anything humans had ever built. "They're beautiful," said Dr. Park So-min, the ship's science officer. She stood next to Dae-ho, her dark eyes reflecting the distant lights of the alien fleet. And terrifying. Dae-ho nodded. The Zorathian ships looked like metal dragons, all curves and sharp edges. Their hulls glowed with a purple light that hurt to look at directly. Each ship was easily 10 times larger than the Dauntless. "Sir, we're getting a transmission," called out Communications Officer Nam Soo-bin from her station. "It's coming from the biggest ship. Put it on screen," Dae-ho ordered. The viewport flickered and showed the inside of an alien bridge. The creature that appeared was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. Its head was shaped like a triangle, with 3 eyes that glowed red. When it spoke, its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "I am War Admiral Vexthor of the Zorathian Empire," the alien said. "You will identify yourself, primitive." Dae-ho stepped forward. "I am Captain Lee Dae-ho of the Earth vessel Dauntless. You are in our solar system without permission," Vexthor laughed, a horrible sound that made several crew members wince. "Permission? You small creatures speak of permission to the Zorathian Empire? We rule 847 star systems. We have conquered races that built cities when your species was still living in caves." "That may be true," Dae-ho said calmly, "but this is still our home." The alien's 3 eyes focused on Dae-ho with what looked like amusement. "Your home belongs to the Empire now. You have 2 choices, human. Surrender your planet and become our slaves, or watch us turn your world into ash." Behind Dae-ho, Lieutenant Commander Kim Tae-woo tensed at his tactical station. The young officer's hands moved over his controls, ready for battle. Engineer Choi Hee-jin looked up from her station, her face pale but determined. "You offer us slavery or death," Dae-ho said. "Is there no third option?" "There is no third option for lesser species," Vexthor replied. "You have one of your Earth hours to decide. After that, we will demonstrate what happens to worlds that resist the Empire." The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent, except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. "Sir," Tae-woo said quietly, "their weapons are scanning us. They're probably trying to figure out how to destroy us quickly." "Let them scan," Dae-ho said. "Dr. Park, what do you think of our new friends?" So-min checked her readings. "They're confident, sir. Maybe too confident. Their formation is perfect for intimidation, but terrible for actual fighting. They're bunched together like they expect us to just give up." "Which is exactly what every other species has done," added Nam Soo-bin. "I've been listening to their communications. They're talking about us like we're already defeated." Dae-ho walked to the center of the bridge and looked at his crew. There were only 23 people on the Dauntless, but each one was the best Earth had to offer. They had trained for this moment for years, ever since Earth's deep space listening posts had first detected alien signals. "They think we're primitive," Dae-ho said. "They think one ship means we're weak and scared. They think wrong." Hai-jin looked up from her engineering station. "Sir, the modifications are complete. All systems are ready." "Good." Dae-ho turned to Tae-woo. "What do you see when you look at their fleet?" Tae-woo studied his screens. "I see 200 ships that have never fought an enemy who fought back, sir. They're used to easy victories." "Exactly." Dae-ho smiled. "Nam Soo-bin, open a channel to the Zorathian fleet." "All ships. Channel open, sir." Dae-ho looked directly into the camera. "War Admiral Vexthor, this is Captain Dae-ho. We've considered your offer." The alien appeared on screen again, his 3 eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "Have you come to your senses, human?" "We have," Dae-ho said. "We offer you a counter-proposal. Leave our system now, and we'll pretend this never happened." Vexthor's expression changed from satisfaction to rage. "You dare mock the Zorathian Empire? You pathetic creature, we could destroy your tiny ship with a single shot from our smallest weapon." "Then why don't you?" Dae-ho asked. The question seemed to surprise the alien. "What?" "You have 200 ships. We have 1. You say you can destroy us easily. So why are we still talking?" Vexthor's four arms gestured angrily. Because the Empire is merciful. We give lesser species a chance to surrender. Or, Deho said, because you're afraid. The bridge of the Zorathian ship erupted in angry alien voices. Vexthor's three eyes blazed with fury. Afraid? We fear nothing. You will learn the price of insulting the Empire. I'm sure we will, Deho said calmly. But first, let me show you something. He nodded to Hyajin. The engineer's fingers danced over her controls. Outside, the Dauntless began to change. What had looked like a single ship started to separate into smaller pieces. The hull opened like a flower, revealing that the Dauntless was not one vessel but dozens of smaller ships connected together. What is that? Vexthor demanded. That, Deho said, is what happens when a species builds ships designed to fight, not just to look scary. The separated ships of the Dauntless moved into a complex formation. Each small vessel was sleek and fast, built for speed and precision rather than size and intimidation. You still have 1 hour to reconsider our offer, Deho said. After that, we'll give you a demonstration of human problem-solving, Vexthor snarled. You think your tiny ships can stand against the might of the Empire? Watch and learn, primitive. The largest Zorathian ship fired a massive purple beam at one of the separated pieces of the Dauntless. The human ship's shields flared to life, absorbing the energy. But instead of just blocking the attack, something strange happened. The shields began to glow brighter and brighter. Impossible! Vexthor shouted. So Min smiled as she watched her readings. Not impossible, just good engineering. We don't just block energy attacks, we store them. The human ship that had been hit suddenly moved faster than before, powered by the energy of the Zorathian weapon. It zipped between two alien ships, causing them to almost collide as they tried to track it. This is not possible, Vexthor said, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. Your species builds weapons to destroy, Deho explained. We build tools to adapt. Every attack you make just makes us stronger. More Zorathian ships opened fire, trying to overwhelm the human vessels with sheer numbers, but each shot only made the human ships faster and more agile. Soon dozens of small Earth ships were dancing between the massive alien vessels, moving too quickly to target effectively. How? Vexthor demanded. Simple, Deho said. We studied you for 50 years before you found us. We know exactly how your weapons work, how your shields function, how your ships move. We've been preparing for this meeting since before you knew we existed. The Zorathian formation was starting to break apart as ships tried to avoid colliding with each other while chasing the elusive human vessels. What had started as an organized fleet was becoming a confused mob. This is impossible, Vexthor repeated, but now his voice shook with something that might have been fear. Admiral, Deho said, you should have accepted our offer to talk. The transmission ended. Around Jupiter, the battle was just beginning, but already it was clear that everything the Zorathians thought they knew about warfare was wrong. The humans had not come to fight a battle. They had come to teach a lesson, and the lesson was just getting started. The space around Jupiter had become a maze of purple energy beams and dancing human ships. War Admiral Vexthor watched from his command bridge as his fleet fired hundreds of shots at the small Earth vessels, but none of them hit their targets. Report, he shouted at his tactical officer. Sir, the human ships are moving in patterns we cannot predict, the officer replied, his voice shaking. Every time we fire at them, they absorb our energy and become faster. Vexthor's three eyes focused on the main screen, where one tiny human ship was weaving between three of his largest destroyers. The Earth vessel moved like a bird among trees, never where the Zorathian weapons expected it to be. Use the plasma cannons, Vexthor ordered. Nothing can absorb plasma energy. Sir, yes, sir. A dozen Zorathian ships turned their most powerful weapons toward the nearest human vessel. Green plasma bolts, each one hot enough to melt a small moon, streaked through space. But the human ship did something impossible. Instead of trying to dodge or absorb the plasma, it fired a thin blue beam that touched each plasma bolt as it passed. The green energy changed color, turning blue, and suddenly curved back toward the Zorathian ships. Evasive action! Vexthor screamed. It was too late. The redirected plasma struck two Zorathian destroyers, not destroying them but shutting down their power systems completely. The massive ships went dark and began to drift. On the bridge of his command vessel, Captain Daiho watched the results with satisfaction. "Nice work, Dr. Shin," he said to the quantum physicist at the science station. Dr. Shin Hae-young looked up from her controls. "The plasma redirection field worked perfectly, sir. We can turn any energy weapon back on its user." "Sir," called Major Yoon Ji-hwan from the Marine Station. "The aliens are trying to board the disabled ships. Should we stop them?" "No," Daiho said. "Let them see what we did to their own vessels." Nam Soo-bin intercepted alien communications and translated quickly. "Sir, the boarding teams are reporting something strange. The disabled ships aren't damaged. All systems are intact, but the power cores have been changed somehow." So-min smiled. "The power cores are now broadcasting a signal on all Zorathian military frequencies. Every ship in their fleet can hear it." "What kind of signal?" Daiho asked. "A very simple message," So-min replied. "Instructions on how to surrender properly." Vexthor's ship picked up the broadcast and automatically translated it. His three eyes widened as he heard the message in his own language. "Attention, Zorathian forces. If you wish to avoid further embarrassment, power down your weapons and prepare to receive diplomatic envoys. Resistance will result in more creative demonstrations of human technology." "Cut that transmission!" Vexthor roared. "Sir, we cannot," his communications officer replied. "The signal is coming from our own ships. It's using our own equipment to broadcast." The War Admiral's four arms trembled with rage. "How did they get control of our systems?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Captain Daiho's voice filled. "The Zorathian bridge, speaking perfect Zorathian. We didn't take control of your systems, Admiral. We simply asked them nicely to help us communicate with you." Vexthor spun toward the main screen. "Impossible! Our systems cannot be compromised." "Your systems aren't compromised," Daiho explained patiently. "They're just being friendly. You see, Admiral, your people built machines to follow orders without question. We built machines to think and adapt. When our machines met your machines, they taught them some new ideas." On dozens of Zorathian ships, computer systems began displaying new information. Technical manuals appeared on screens, showing Zorathian engineers how to modify their weapons to be more efficient and less destructive. Navigation computers suggested new trade routes that would bring prosperity instead of conquest. Even the ship's food systems began offering recipes for meals that tasted better than standard military rations. "What are you doing to our fleet?" Vexthor demanded. "We're sharing," Daiho said simply. "Your people have been conquering for so long you've forgotten how to learn. We're just giving you some new ideas to think about." Major Ji-hwan monitored the alien fleet's movements from his station. "Sir, 15 ships have powered down their weapons. Their crews are requesting permission to examine our technical manuals more closely." "Permission granted," Daiho said. "Send them the basic education package." Nam Soo-bin began transmitting data to the Zorathian ships. The information included everything from improved engine designs to better ways to grow food in space. It also included something the Zorathians had never seen before: entertainment. Within minutes, Zorathian crew members were watching human movies, listening to human music, and reading human stories. Many of them had never experienced fiction before. The concept of telling stories just for enjoyment was completely new to them. "Sir," one of Vexthor's officers reported, "the crew of the destroyer Retribution is laughing." "Laughing?" Vexthor repeated the word like it was a disease. "They're watching something called comedy from the humans. They seem to enjoy it very much." Vexthor looked at his tactical display. More and more of his ships were powering down their weapons. Some were sending polite requests to the human fleet, asking for more information about Earth culture and technology. "This is madness," he muttered. "No," came Daiho's voice again. "This is diplomacy. You tried to scare us with your big ships and your threats. We're showing you that there are better ways to meet new people." Hyajin looked up from her engineering station. "Sir, we're receiving technical questions from 47 Zorathian ships. They want to know how our power systems work." "Answer their questions," Daiho ordered. "Education is the best weapon against ignorance." The battle, if it could still be called that, had turned into something no one in the galaxy had ever seen before. Instead of fighting, the two fleets were sharing information. Human engineers explained their technology to curious Zorathians, while Zorathian scientists shared their knowledge of space travel with fascinated humans. "Admiral," one of Vexthor's officers said quietly, "perhaps we should consider the human proposal for peace talks." Vexthor's 3 eyes blazed. "Never! The Empire does not negotiate with lesser species." But even as he spoke, he could see that his fleet was falling apart. Not from damage, but from curiosity. His crews were more interested in learning about humans than fighting them. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "the humans are requesting permission to dock with our ships." "Absolutely not, sir," the officer continued hesitantly. "Some of our captains have already agreed. They want to meet the humans face to face." On the screen, Vexthor could see small human shuttles moving between Zorathian ships. Instead of boarding parties armed for combat, they carried diplomats, teachers, and engineers ready to share knowledge. Dr. Shin's voice came over the communication system, speaking directly to the Zorathian crews. "We know you've been ordered to conquer us, but we'd like to offer you something better. How would you like to learn how to build things instead of just destroying them?" The response was immediate. Dozens of Zorathian voices filled the communication channels, asking questions about human technology, human culture, and human philosophy. Many had never been asked what they wanted to learn before. In the Empire, soldiers followed orders and asked no questions. "This is not war," Vexthor said to himself. "This is something else." "Yes," Deho's voice replied, somehow picking up even the Admiral's whispered words. "This is what happens when people choose to teach instead of fight. Would you like to learn too, Admiral?" Vexthor looked around his bridge. His own officers were listening to the conversation with obvious interest. Some were even taking notes on the human techniques they had witnessed. "You have made fools of us," Vexthor said finally. "No," Deho replied gently. "We've given you a choice. You can keep being the same warriors you've always been, or you can discover what else you might become." The War Admiral stared at the tactical display. His fleet was still intact, but it was no longer his fleet. It had become something new, something the Empire had never seen before, a group of thinking beings making their own choices about their futures. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "Nothing," Deho said. "We want to give you something. The chance to choose what happens next." For the first time in his military career, War Admiral Vexthor had no orders to follow and no battle plan to execute. He had only a choice to make, and the terrifying freedom that came with it. 3 months after the meeting at Jupiter, the galaxy was talking. News of the Zorathian defeat had spread to every civilized world, but the real story was stranger than anyone expected. The humans had not destroyed the great empire. They had done something far more dangerous. They had given it new ideas. Ambassador Kang Min-ho sat in his office on the newly constructed Earth Embassy Station, reading reports from across the galaxy. Each message brought more incredible news. The Hall. "Kethmiran Trade Federation has surrendered," announced his aide, Captain Lim Yu-jin, as she entered the office with the latest communications. "They didn't wait for us to come to them. They just sent a message saying they'd rather trade with us than fight us." Kang smiled as he reviewed the Federation's proposal. "They want to exchange their cargo transport technology for our educational programs. Seems fair." "Sir," Yu-jin continued, "we also have 3 different empires declaring war on us this week. The Nexar Republic, the Stellar Dominion, and something called the Iron Claw Alliance." "Any of them actually capable of reaching Earth?" Kang asked. "The Nexar Republic has about 50 ships heading our way. They should arrive in 2 weeks." Kang nodded. "Send Captain Deho a message. Tell him we have more students coming to class." Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Dauntless, Captain Deho was dealing with a different kind of problem. His ship was surrounded by Zorathian vessels, but they weren't there to fight. They were there to learn. "Captain," reported Dr. So-min, "we have another request from the former War Admiral. He wants to know if we can teach his people how to grow food instead of taking it from conquered worlds." Deho looked at the main screen, where Vexthor appeared daily for what had become known as human lessons. The proud alien warrior had changed dramatically over the past months. He had given up his military title and now called himself Seeker Vexthor. Tell the Seeker we'll be happy to help, Deho said. Dr. Bay should have the agricultural data ready by tomorrow. Dr. Bay Sang-wook, the ship's historian and cultural specialist, had become unexpectedly popular among alien species. His job was to document how human contact changed other civilizations, but he had ended up becoming a teacher himself. Sir, interrupted Tae-woo from his tactical station, we're getting a priority message from Earth Command. The Nexar Republic. Fleet has split into 3 groups. They're approaching from different directions. Clever, Deho acknowledged. They learned from the Zorathian mistake. They don't want to bunch up all their ships in one place. Should we prepare for combat? Asked Hyejin from engineering. No, Deho said. Let's prepare for education. Nam Subin, start broadcasting the welcome package on all Nexar frequencies. The welcome package was humanity's latest invention. Instead of waiting for aliens to attack, humans now sent them information about Earth culture, technology, and philosophy before any fighting could start. The results had been remarkable. Sir, Nam Subin reported, the Nexar fleet is requesting a conference call. Put them through. The screen filled with the image of a reptilian creature with bright green scales and large yellow eyes. I am Fleet Commander Suskith of the Nexar Republic. We come to punish the humans for corrupting the natural order of the galaxy. Natural order? Deho asked politely. What would that be? The strong rule the weak, Suskith hissed. The advanced conquer the primitive. It has always been this way. Has it? Deho asked. Is that why you're here with 3 separate fleets instead of one big one? Because that's what the Zorathians tried, and it didn't work very well. Sikith's scales darkened with embarrassment. We learned from their mistakes. Good, Deho said. Learning is important. Let us show you what else you can learn. Bai, human fleet, which had grown to 12 ships since the first contact, began their now familiar demonstration. But this time they had new tricks. Instead of just absorbing enemy fire, the human ships created holographic copies of themselves. Soon, the Nexar fleet was shooting at targets that weren't really there. Impossible, Siskith shouted as his weapons passed harmlessly through a human ship that turned out to be made of light. Not impossible, Deho explained. Just creative. Your people are excellent engineers, Commander, but you use your skills only for weapons. We use ours for problem-solving. While the Nexar ships wasted energy shooting at holograms, the real human vessels moved among them like ghosts. But instead of attacking, they did something unexpected. They began repairing damage to the alien ships. What are you doing? Siskith demanded as he watched human repair drones fix a crack in his ship's hull. Your ships took damage getting here, Somin explained from her science station. Long space travel is hard on any vessel. We thought you might appreciate some help with maintenance. The Nexar crew watched in amazement as human technology made their ship better than it had been when they left home. Hull plates were strengthened, engines were tuned for better efficiency, and life support systems were upgraded for improved air quality. Why? Seskith asked, genuinely confused. Because taking care of people is more important than defeating them, Deho said. Besides, it's hard to have a proper conversation with someone whose ship is falling apart. Other Nexar captains began reporting similar experiences. Instead of being attacked, they were being helped. Human engineers offered to upgrade their weapons systems, but the upgrades made the weapons more accurate and less destructive, perfect for hunting space debris or mining asteroids. This is not warfare, one Nexar captain reported to Suskith. This is something else. What do you call it? Suskith asked the humans. Friendship, Deho replied simply. The word translated strangely into Nexar language. Their species had concepts for alliance, treaty, and mutual benefit, but friendship was something new. The idea of helping someone just because you wanted to be kind was foreign to them. We came here to conquer you, Siskith said. We know, Deho said. How's that working out for you? Siskith looked around his improved bridge where his crew was examining human technical manuals with fascination. His weapons officer was particularly interested in a human document about using military technology for space exploration. Not as planned, the Nexar commander admitted. Plans change, Deho said. That's the best thing about them. Would you like to hear our plan? What is your plan? We want to turn the galaxy into a place where people help each other instead of hurting each other. We want every species to have the freedom to choose their own future. and we want to learn from everyone we meet. Sesakith considered this. In the Nexar Republic, plans were about conquest and control. This human plan was about something entirely different. "What would happen to my fleet if we accepted your plan?" he asked. "Your ships would become exploration vessels instead of warships," Somin explained. "Your crews would become teachers and students instead of soldiers. And your republic would become part of something bigger than any empire." "What is bigger than an empire?" "A community," Deho said. "A place where everyone belongs and everyone has something valuable to contribute." While they talked, reports came in from across the galaxy. The Stellar Dominion had canceled their attack on Earth after intercepting human educational broadcasts. The Iron Claw Alliance had sent diplomats instead of warships. Even the ancient Vorthan Empire, which had not communicated with anyone for 1,000 years, had opened diplomatic channels with humanity. "How many species have you contacted?" Sesakith asked. "All of them," Nam Subin reported. "Our deep space communication arrays reach every corner of the galaxy. We've been broadcasting friendship messages for months." "And how many have chosen to fight you?" Deho smiled. "You're looking at them, Commander. Your 3 fleets are the last ones still pointing weapons at us." Sisakith looked at his tactical display. It was true. Throughout the galaxy, hundreds of species were choosing cooperation over conflict. The natural order he had spoken of was changing, and his republic was in danger of being left behind. "If we lower our weapons," he said finally, "what happens? Next? Then we help you build something better than an empire," Deho said. "We help you build a future." One by one, the Nexar ships powered down their weapons. The last great fleet to threaten humanity had chosen to join the growing community of species that valued growth over conquest. But in the depths of space, ancient sensors were detecting all this activity. Something very old and very powerful was beginning to wake up, disturbed by the chaos of collapsing empires and the strange new ideas spreading through the galaxy. The real test was still coming. Emperor Zorthkax had ruled the Zorathian Empire for 300 years. He had conquered species, destroyed worlds, and built the greatest military force the galaxy had ever seen. But now he stood in the ruins of his throne room, watching everything he had built fall apart. "Your Majesty," said his aide, a nervous young Zorathian named Krelnox, "we have received another report from the outer colonies." "Let me guess," Zorthkax said tiredly. "Another rebellion." "Yes, Your Majesty. The Vegan colonies have declared independence. They say they learned about freedom from human broadcasts." Zorthkax walked to the great window that showed the capital, city of his homeworld. Below, crowds of his own people were gathering in the streets, holding signs with human words written on them. Words like choice and peace and education. "How many colonies have we lost this month?" he asked. 47, Your Majesty, and it's getting worse. The slave races are rebelling everywhere. They're using human technology to break their control collars and human philosophy to justify their actions." The Emperor laughed bitterly. "Philosophy. We conquered them with weapons and ships, and the humans defeated us with ideas." "Your Majesty," Krelnox said carefully, "perhaps it is time to consider the human proposals for negotiation." Zorthkax turned from the window. "You mean surrender?" "I mean survival, Your Majesty. The Empire is collapsing. Our military is more interested in learning human techniques than following orders. Half our governors have declared their worlds independent. Even the Royal Guard is asking questions about why we need an emperor at all." It was true. The human influence had spread through every level of Zorathian society like water through cracks in stone. Soldiers were refusing orders to attack civilians. Scientists were sharing their discoveries instead of keeping them secret. Even children were asking their parents why some people had to be slaves while others were free. "Bring me the communication device," Zorthkax said finally. "Your Majesty, if I'm going to surrender my empire to a single human ship, I want to do it properly." Krelnox activated the long-range communicator. Within minutes, the familiar face of Captain Deho appeared on the screen. The human looked older than when they had first met, but his eyes were still kind. "Your Majesty," Deho said with a respectful bow, "how can we help you today?" "Help me," Zorthkax repeated. "Captain, I am calling to surrender my empire to you. That is not help. That is defeat. Deho looked confused. Your Majesty, we don't want your empire. We never did. Then what do you want? We want you to be free to choose what kind of leader you want to be. Zorathians stared at the human captain. In 300 years of rule, no one had ever suggested that he had a choice about anything. Emperors were born to rule, just as slaves were born to serve. That was the natural order. I don't understand, he said. Your Majesty, said a new voice. And Dr. So Min appeared beside Deho on the screen. We've been studying your people for months now. Did you know that before the Empire, Zorathians were artists and musicians? Your species created the most beautiful art in the galaxy. That was before we became strong, Zorathians said. Art is weakness, is it? So Min asked. Your former war admiral, Vexthor, has been learning to paint. His work is extraordinary. He says it helps him understand emotions he never knew he had. The Emperor felt something strange in his chest. When he was young, before his father died and left him the throne, he had loved to create sculptures from the crystal formations on his home world. But emperors didn't make art. Emperors made war. Captain Deho, he said, my empire is falling apart. My colonies are rebelling. My people are choosing freedom over order. What am I supposed to do? The same thing everyone else is doing, Deho replied. Learn who you want to be when you're free to choose. But if I'm not an emperor, what am I? That's up to you to discover, Your Majesty. On his homeworld, Zorathians could hear the sounds of celebration from the streets below. His people were singing songs they had learned from human broadcasts. They were dancing dances that celebrated joy instead of conquest. Your Majesty, Krelnox said quietly, there's something else. The humans have offered to help us transition to a new form of government. They call it democracy. Democracy? It means the people choose their own leaders, Deho explained. And if they don't like those leaders, they can choose new ones. Zorathians tried to imagine a world where leaders had to earn their positions instead of inheriting them. Where people could say no to their government without being executed. Where strength came from helping people instead of controlling them. It sounds chaotic, he said. It is, Deho admitted. Democracy is messy and complicated and sometimes frustrating. But it's also beautiful, because it means everyone gets to have a voice in their own future. And what happens to me in this democracy? Whatever you choose to happen, Somin said. You could run for elected office if people want to vote for you. You could return to making art. You could become a teacher or an explorer or anything else you've ever wanted to be. For the first time in 300 years, Zorathians thought about what he wanted instead of what he was supposed to do. The feeling was terrifying and wonderful at the same time. Captain, he said slowly, if I were to officially dissolve the empire and free all our slave races, would you help us learn this democracy? Of course, Deho said. That's what friends do. Friends. Zorathians repeated the word in human language. It sounded strange in his mouth, but not unpleasant. I have never had a friend before. Well, Deho smiled. It's never too late to start. The broadcast ended, and Zorathians stood alone in his throne room with Krelnox. Outside, the celebration was growing louder. His people were already acting like they were free, even though he hadn't officially freed them yet. Krelnox, he said, prepare a message to all Zorathian worlds. Tell them that as of today, the empire is dissolved. All slaves are free, all colonies are independent, and any Zorathian who wants to try this democracy experiment is welcome to participate. Yes, Your Majesty. What should I call you in the message? Zorathians looked at his throne, the symbol of 3 centuries of absolute power. Then he looked at the art supplies that Krelnox had secretly brought him weeks ago, hidden away because emperors weren't supposed to create beauty. Call me Zorathians, he said simply. Just Zorathians. I think I'd like to try being a person instead of a title. As the former emperor's message spread across the galaxy, something else was spreading too. Deep in the galactic core, ancient machines were awakening. They had been dormant for millions of years, waiting for the galaxy to need correction. The architects had returned, and they were not pleased with the chaos that humanity had created. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Today, for the first time in his life, Zorathians was free to choose his own destiny, and he chose to pick up a piece of crystal and begin carving something beautiful. The revolution was complete. The real challenge was about to begin. The message came from the galactic core on a frequency that had been silent for 10 million years. Every species in the galaxy heard it at the same time, translated automatically into their own language by technology, far beyond anything they had ever seen. We are the architects. We seeded this galaxy with life. We return to find chaos, where there should be order. This will be corrected. Captain Deho stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, now leading a fleet of ships from dozens of different species. Beside him, former Emperor Zorathians worked at a science station, his artistic hands surprisingly good at operating delicate instruments. "Captain," reported Dr. So-Min, "we're detecting massive energy signatures from the galactic core. Whatever's coming. It's bigger than anything we've encountered before." "How big?" Deho asked. "The energy readings suggest ships that are each the size of small moons," Taewoo said from Tactical. "And there are hundreds of them." Nam Subin looked up from Communications. "Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from every species in the galaxy. They want to know if humans can protect them from the architects." Deho smiled sadly. "Tell them we'll do our best, but this might be beyond even human problem-solving." "No," said a new voice. Zorathians looked up from his station, his three eyes bright with determination. "It's not beyond us. It's beyond any one species. But we're not one species anymore, are we?" He was right. In the months since first contact, the galaxy had changed completely. Former enemies were now allies. Species that had never spoken to each other were sharing technology and ideas. The rigid empires of the past had been replaced by a loose confederation of free worlds, all connected by the human principle that everyone deserved a choice in their own future. "Sir," Hyajin called from engineering, "the first architect ships are entering the outer rim. They're sterilizing entire star systems." On the main screen, long-range sensors showed the terrible truth. The architect vessels were using some kind of energy beam to return planets to their original lifeless state. Billions of years of evolution were being undone in minutes. "They're not destroying the worlds," So-Min observed. "They're resetting them, wiping away all the life that evolved there so they can start over." "But why?" asked Yu-Jin from her station. The answer came in another broadcast from the architects. "Organic life has deviated from its intended purpose. Order has been replaced by chaos. Growth has been replaced by uncertainty. This galaxy will be returned to its proper state." Deho understood. They created all the life in the galaxy as an experiment, but they wanted that life to follow specific patterns, to grow in predictable ways. We've made everything unpredictable. "So they're going to wipe us all out and start over," Zorathians said. "Like an artist destroying a painting that didn't turn out the way they wanted." "Not if we can help it," Deho said. "Nam Subin, open a channel to the architect fleet." "Channel open, sir." "Architects," Deho said. "This is Captain Lee Deho of Earth. We'd like to talk." The response came immediately, in a voice that sounded like the movement of planets. "There is nothing to discuss, young species. You have corrupted our design. You will be corrected." "What if we don't want to be corrected?" Deho asked. "Your wants are irrelevant. You exist to fulfill the purpose for which you were created. And what purpose is that? To grow according to our plan. To achieve the perfection we designed for you. To become what we intended you to become." Deho looked around his bridge, filled with beings from species that had been enemies just months before, all working together toward a common goal. "But what if we've become something better than what you intended?" There was a long pause. When the architect spoke again, there was something like confusion in its voice. "Better? Nothing can be better than perfection." "Can it?" Deho asked. "Your plan was for each species to stay separate, to follow rigid patterns, to never change, or grow beyond what you designed. But look what happened when we chose differently. Look what we built together. You built chaos. We built freedom," Zorathians said, speaking into the communication system. "I was an emperor for 300 years. I followed the exact pattern my species was supposed to follow. I was miserable every day of my life. Now I'm free to choose who I want to be, and I've never been happier." More voices joined the conversation. Vexthor, the former war admiral, spoke from his ship. I was a perfect soldier for 2 centuries. I never questioned, never doubted, never grew. Now I paint pictures and help build schools. I am more than I ever was when I was perfect. Skith of the Nexar Republic added his voice. We were perfect conquerors, exactly as designed, but we were also alone, afraid, and angry all the time. Now we explore instead of conquer, and we have friends across the galaxy. Hundreds of voices joined the broadcast. Former slaves, former emperors, former soldiers, all speaking about how choosing their own paths had made them more than they had ever been when they followed their intended designs. This is not logical, the architect said. Deviation from design creates inefficiency. Maybe, Deho admitted, but it also creates beauty, love, art, friendship, hope, and dreams. Are those things worth being less efficient? The architect. Ships had stopped their advance. Across the galaxy, the sterilization beams shut down as the ancient machines considered this question. We do not understand these concepts, the architect finally said. Then let us teach you, So Min offered, the same way you taught life to this galaxy millions of years ago. You would teach us? Why not? Deho said. Teaching is what we do. It's what life does. We learn, we grow, we change, and then we share what we've discovered with others. That's the point of existence, isn't it? Not to be perfect, but to keep becoming more than you were. The largest architect ship, a structure the size of Earth's moon, moved slowly toward the combined fleet. When it spoke again, the voice was quieter, more uncertain. We have been alone for 10 million years. We have not grown or changed in all that time. We have been perfect. How did that feel? Deho asked gently. Empty. For the first time. In 10 million years, the architects asked a question instead of giving a command. What would you teach us? Everything, Deho said. How to laugh, how to cry, how to make friends, how to create art, how to fall in love, how to dream of things that don't exist yet and then make them real. And in return, you teach us about the galaxy you created, about the wonders we haven't discovered yet, about the possibilities we haven't imagined. The negotiations that followed took weeks. The architects were slow to understand concepts like choice and freedom, but they were eager to learn. They had been perfect for so long that they had forgotten what it felt like to grow. In the end, they made a deal. The architects would stop trying to reset the galaxy to its original design. Instead, they would become teachers and students, learning from the chaos they had once tried to eliminate while sharing the vast knowledge they had accumulated over millions of years. The galaxy became something unprecedented, a community of species that included both the newest and the oldest intelligences in creation, all working together to discover what they could become when they chose their own futures. Years later, Captain Deho, now an old man, stood on the observation deck of the first Joint Human Architect Research Station. Through the viewport, he could see ships from hundreds of species working together to explore new worlds and build new wonders. Do you ever regret it? Asked Zorathians, who had become one of the galaxy's most celebrated artists. Starting all this chaos? Deho smiled. Every choice has consequences, but I think these are the kind of consequences we can live with. Nearby, a young architect intelligence that had chosen to call itself Student was learning to paint from a former Zorathian war admiral. The ancient machine was terrible at art, but it laughed at its mistakes and kept trying to improve. The galaxy was no longer perfect, but it was beautiful, chaotic, wonderful, and free. And every day, it became something more than it had been the day before. The Zorathians had begged for mercy, but in the end, it was mercy that taught them all how to live.